Hello boys, good morning. This is your teacher Jana Akhtar. Welcome back to our online class. This is my third class on online based class. On our last lecture, we were just discussing about chapter 2. We were just trying to review all the chapters of our syllabus, and our running chapter was chapter 2 motion. In my last class I have discussed about different topics related to this chapter, theoretical topics that are important to know for your creative type question. Before solving creative type question, you have to know about the theoretical topic, as well as different kind of question that comes from theory. Okay, today I will try to show some or we will try to practice some mathematical type works or creative type works. Let's start here. Our first question is a graph based question. As you know that in this chapter some graph based question, there are some graph based question. These are important for your board exam or any kind of exam. Here in the STEM, two graphs are given. First graph or first figure relates distance and time, and the second graph or second figure relates velocity and time. Here for 20-second time, the covered distance is 20 meter, and here also time difference is 10, 20, etc., and the velocity is given here. Now according to these 10, what are the questions? First question is, what is uniform acceleration? All of you guys know about uniform acceleration, etc. What is uniform acceleration? If the rate of increase of velocity of a moving body is maintained constant for all the time in a particular direction, then the acceleration is said to be uniform. Velocity will remain constant for all the time on its movement, then it will be an uniform acceleration. Then second question, show that force is a derived quantity. This is a question related to first chapter. On your first chapter you have known about quantity, fundamental quantities, derived quantity. All of you know that force is a derived quantity, but why is it called derived quantity? Because if we write force, then force equals ma, or that means mass into acceleration. The multiplication of mass and acceleration is called force. Then we can write instead of a, we can write here v by t, that means velocity divided by time. Again, instead of v we can write d by t, that means distance divided by time. Then force equals becomes mass into distance divided by time square. That means if we divide force, then we get some more quantities. That means, what is derived quantity? When a quantity we get from more than one quantity using more than two quantities, then that is called derived quantities. So for getting force we have to know about three quantity: mass, distance and time. So it is definitely a derived quantity. Third question is from figure 2, find the distance in 20 seconds. What will be the distance within in 20 seconds? From figure B, if we want to determine the distance, I have shaded the area here with red mark, because for determining the area within 20 seconds we have to know the area of this shaded mark. I have notified this with O, A, B, C, D. Okay, then if we want to measure the area of this distance, we have to measure the area of triangle OAD, and we have to measure the area of this rectangle A, B, C, D. If we apply the laws here, that means the law of triangle and law of the area of rectangle, then we will get the total distance 450 meter. By applying different laws and their values, we will get total distance for 20 seconds. It will be 450 meter. This was our third question, and fourth question was from the stem, related to the stem. Fourth question was from figure 1 and figure 2, give comparative discussion of motion in different parts. We have to compare two figure, and we have to give a comparative discussion about different parts of this figure. This was our figure 2, and I have drawn the figure 1 again. This is figure 1 that relates between distance and time. If at first we want to discuss about figure 1, the velocity for first 10 second velocity. If we want to measure the velocity within these first 10 seconds, that will be v equals distance divided by time. Final distance and initial distance was 0, their difference, and initial time was 0 and final time was 10 seconds, their difference. Calculating, we get the value of velocity for first 10 seconds is 2 meter per second. Okay, this is the value of velocity for first 10 seconds. But if we observe the graph, we can see that for the next 10 seconds, this is a perpendicular line, parallel line to x-axis. So we can say that the object has no velocity here. This is still continuing with 20 meter this distance, so object has no velocity. So first 10 seconds our velocity was 2 meter per second, and for rest 10 seconds there is no velocity. This is about first figure. That's all about first figure. And now if we want to discuss about figure 2, this is a velocity time graph. So from this graph we can calculate the value of acceleration for first 10 seconds. If we want to know about first 10 seconds, the acceleration a is equals, we know the equation is v minus u divided by t. V final velocity, u initial velocity, t time. Here time difference 10 seconds, as it's starting from initial point 0, so there is no initial velocity, that is it is starting from rest position. So initial velocity is 0 and final velocity is 30. We are seeing from our graph. So here we can determine the value of acceleration 3 meter per second square. But if we observe the graph for next 10 seconds, the object moves with uniform velocity. This is a parallel line to the x-axis, so the object moves with uniform velocity, and we know that when an object moves with uniform velocity, there is no acceleration. So for the next 10 seconds there is no acceleration. So these are the comparative discussion about figure 1 or figure 2. If you just follow the board questions of previous years, you will get different kinds of graph based question. You must practice this type of question for your exam. I hope you have understood this question and the solution. You must practice all kind of questions related to graph. Okay, we have understood our first question and their solution. Now we will proceed to our second question. What is our second question? This is a table or chart related question. In this chapter, some questions come from table or chart. Here is a chart given. The terms that are given here, velocity and time, different values of velocity and time are given. I am just using the question C and D here. I'm just giving the question C and D. That means last two questions given here. Number C, using the chart, calculate the distance traveled in first 20 seconds. Using the chart, we have to calculate the distance traveled in first 20 seconds. So before calculating the questions or before calculation, at first we have to write the values that are given in question. Whenever we check the exam script, very regularly, we just see that most of the time you don't mention this parameter including their units. You have to mention all parameters that are given in your question, including the units. If you don't do that, your marks will be deducted here. Okay, so try to remember this. In our question, initial value of velocity is u equals 0 and velocity at 20 seconds from our graph. Velocity at 20 seconds is 25 meter per second. So now we can calculate the distance. For calculating the distance, we have to use this equation: s equals ut plus half a t square. Ut plus half a t square, the value of time is here 20 seconds, but what will be the value of acceleration a? This is not given in the question, so we have to measure the acceleration first. A equals b minus u divided by t. Applying this equation, we can calculate the acceleration here. For 20-second time, the velocity is 25 meter per second. That means acceleration will be 1.25 meter per second square. Using this value in this equation, here we can get the total distance for 20-second time. This will be 250 meter. This is a simple calculation, and now we will proceed to our second question. With the help of the stem, draw a graph and calculate the slope of the graph. At first we have to draw a graph. I have drawn the graph with freehand, but if this type of question comes in your exam, you must have to use graph paper. While practicing at your home, you should use graph paper, because using your freehand, you won't get the proper value. So you must use graph paper. Using graph paper, if I want to draw the graph here on x-axis, we will take the velocity, we will take the amount of time, and along y-axis we will just write down the velocities. Then we'll have a graph like this, that is proceeding to initial value. Then this is a straight line, and this is coming from the origin, proceeding to the origin, and this will be a straight line if we draw the graph in a proper way. So now we want to determine the slope of this graph. What is the slope of a graph? As we know, slope is the tangent value of any graph, whether it is a straight line or a curved line. Slope is the tangent of that graph. What is the tangent value? That means tan theta equals, we all know that, perpendicular divided by base. In this graph, along a perpendicular axis there is velocity, and along the base there is time. So if we want to measure the slope of this graph, we will get the value of acceleration. Now let's determine a single value for this graph. I have marked some points here. For any point we can determine the slope. For example, I have considered here this area shaded with red mark. Here the perpendicular line is CE and the baseline is AE. If we write down the values corresponding to these lines, we will get the acceleration will be 1.25 meter per second square. If you use graph paper, you will get a smooth graph and you will get the value in a proper way. In our previous question, we got acceleration was 1.25 meter per second square, and from the calculation of graph, we are again getting the value of acceleration is 1.25 meter per second square. Using any point, I have used the point C here, A, B, C. Using any point, you can calculate the slope, or you can calculate the graph, and you can get the value of slope. Okay, so that means for a velocity time graph, the slope will be acceleration, and that will be the tangent value of that graph. I hope you have understood this question and its solution. Next, we will try to focus on third question, another question here. Our two questions was, one was graph based, one was chart based, chart or table based. Third question is, a force is applied on 5 kg rest masses, 5 kg rest masses of an object up to 10 seconds, and as a result the object is displaced 150 meter. Number C, find out the distance after 7 seconds. And question D is, what amount of force should necessary at the same time to cover the twice distance. So if we want to make the solution of question C, find out the distance after 7 seconds. After 7 seconds, if we want to measure the value of distance, we have to use this equation as equals ut plus half a t square. Before calculating, we have to record all the values given on my question. Here distance as equals 150 meter. Initial value is 0, as in the stem it was told that the body just was in rest position, so its initial velocity was 0. Time t equals 10 seconds, and the change time that is called in the question is 7 seconds. At first we will consider the time 10 seconds, then we will we will have calculation of 7 seconds. Then just applying this equation, if we use this equation, we will get the value of acceleration here for covering 150 meter distance within 10 seconds. What will be the acceleration? 3 meter per second square. And using this acceleration, we will calculate the value of distance for 7 second time. So for 7 second time, what will be the distance? Using the value of acceleration, we will get the values 73.5 meter. Next question D, what amount of force should necessary at the same time to cover the twice distance? In the stem, the mentioned distance was 150 meter. If we want to cover the twice distance, that means twice of 150 meter within the same time, what amount of force we have to apply, we have to calculate that term. So equation is same here, as equals ut plus half a t square. Now the covered distance is 300 meter, and for this the acceleration will be same as before. The acceleration will be changed here. The acceleration will be 6 meter per second square. And if we want to calculate the value of force, we have to apply this equation, F equals ma, where m is equals 5 kg was given on the stem, and acceleration is 6. So now the force will be 13 Newton. That means for covering twice distance within same time, we have to increase the amount of force. We have to increase the acceleration level, So I think you have understood this question. As I have told on my earlier classes, this is a review class. I am trying to focus on different types of questions and their calculation. You just continue practicing at home all questions from your book, and same at the same time now try to solve some test papers, and questions of different years, questions of different schools, test exam of previous years, and thus you will be well prepared for your exam, for your pre-test exam, for your test exam, and as well as for your what is your final destination, what is your final focus is your board exam. Okay, time is going its own way, and you are getting enough time at your home for practicing. This is our last class before our vacation, Eid vacation. After the break or Eid vacation, we will come back and try to review the rest of the chapters. I hope all of you will keep practicing in a regular way. Just stay at home, stay safe, and just stay with your regular studies. Okay, boys, thank you for watching my class. Another thing I want to mention here that whatever maths or whatever creative type question I have shown here, and on my first class I have given you our homework. These works you will just write as a assignment type work, and whenever your school is reopen you have to submit this assignment. Okay, so just keep a record of classes, whatever are given on your online classes, keep a record of that and complete your study. Take care, boys. Goodbye.